The Innovation Theater at CSCMP Edge is sponsored by Canop.
All right, welcome everyone to our panel here. Well, we're discussing last mile in B2B and how to get resilient and agile. My name's Bart. I'll be the moderator for our discussion today. And we have a very interesting panel here today with people from industry with a lot of experience in this space. So what I'd like to do is for each of you to introduce yourself, company, your role, and kind of how you see your role when it comes to B2B last mile. And Rebecca, how about we start with you?
Great. So my name is Rebecca Jung. I am with Cencora, and I lead our transportation team. And so it's made up of multiple business units representing multiple modes of transportation, but mostly today we'll focus on the final mile, what we do with our wholesale distribution network, and utilizing the final mile courier services. We are wholesale, pharmaceutical, healthcare, OTC pharma, cold chain, all the things, but happy to be here.
Very good. Thank you, Rebecca. How about you, Doug?
Hey, Doug Cantriel with Ford Motor Company. I run transportation for North America for Ford Customer Service Division. Responsible for making deliveries to our dealerships on a nightly basis. Been in the parcel industry for 15 years, consulting around this space for about another 15 years as well. Also on the software side with Red Prairie as well. So come from a different perspective, a lot of hands-on. My first part of my career. Again, we deliver about 400,000 parts a night to dealerships with a final mile solution.
Very good. So we got two shippers, and now we also have a 3PL. So Jeff, what's your role there?
Good afternoon. So I am Jeff McDermott. I'm with Geodis, a global third-party logistics company. So Geodis, if you don't know, we do international freight forwarding, we do warehousing solutions, and transportation solutions. So my role is I lead all the U.S. transportation, of course, which includes the final mile space.
So it's great to have the different perspectives here on the panel. And so our focus is going to be on the B2B last mile. Now, we know that in any supply chain, the last mile is often the most complex of any of the parts of the supply chain. And we've seen the last few years that complexity has only increased. Now, some of you might be thinking, or a lot of people might be thinking last mile, that's only to consumer. But for a lot of industry, the last mile is the last handoff of your inventory to where it's getting consumed, which is in a lot of cases the B2B side. And a recent study by Gartner has actually shown that when it comes to customer expectations, although we know consumer expectations are very high on the B2C side, that expectation for the customer side on the B2B side is even higher. That combined with all the volatility that we've seen, all the disruptions that we've seen in the market, has really created a whole whirlwind of challenges for companies. And that's what we're going to be digging into during the conversation, is what are some of these challenges that we're seeing, both from the shipper and the 3PL perspective, as well as how do you actually solve some of these challenges, how do you overcome them, how do you use technology, and then we'll be talking at the end as well about an important thing is collaboration, right? Because you're not just a single company trying to accomplish that. You're doing that between your suppliers, you're doing that with your customers, you're doing that with your 3PLs, and you're doing that with carriers, and often a growing amount of carriers. So maybe we'll start from shipper perspective. How have you seen the whole B2B last mile space evolve the last few years from your perspective, from kind of the pharmaceutical healthcare perspective?
Yeah, so a few things that have changed a lot. And so first, it's the product mix, right? And so we are seeing far more cold chain in the market. And so how do you maintain the temperature and the efficacy of the product when it is delivered? Because what we say, it's not a product, right? We're shipping drugs that are consumed, right? And so it's a patient on the end. And so the retail pharmacies, the health systems of the world, and how they deliver to their patients is critical to how we deliver to them. And so that continues to become more and more complex because the patient demand is different and the way in which the service providers is different. So I think the type of product and cold chain adding complexity to it. Also, the amount of visibility, transparency, I would say, that is now demanded, along with the consistency of the delivery. And so that goes beyond just an on-time delivery. They want it the same way, almost the same driver, every day, right? And if that doesn't happen, how we recover from it becomes more and more important.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for sharing that, Rebecca. Doug, how have you seen that evolve from the automotive industry, and did it, for example, have impact on your logistics costs?
It actually has dropped our logistics costs, to be honest with you. We had 8 different platforms when I came into this role. We single sourced that out with a singular platform. I think from a final mile perspective is that you're trying to give more convenience to that final customer. Let them be self-serving as much as possible. We have given them tools now to track drivers in real time. 8 hours in advance, they're getting a 1-hour delivery window, which I don't know if anybody else is doing that out there right now. Allowing them to print paperwork for themselves, allowing to schedule pickups for themselves. So it's becoming much more self-serving, a lot less phone calls, which frees up people's time to do other things. And I think it's going to continue to evolve. You're going to see more of this self-serving delivery on my terms kind of a thing evolve.
Yeah, very good. Now, looking at it from the 3PL, the logistics service provider side, how have you seen it evolve, Jeff?
Well, I think first of all, as a 3PL, we're trying to solve many different challenges in many different verticals. So whether it's retail, healthcare, manufacturing, automotive, whatever it may be, our customers are coming to us looking for solutions that are specific to their business, but they want the advantage of working with a 3PL to find ways to try to take cost out of the business that they may not be able to get themselves. So whether it's commingling with other shippers, whether it's improving route optimization, anything that they may not be able to achieve themselves, especially in the environment we're in right now. 5 years ago, it was all about just get it there. Cost wasn't a big concern, but now we're back to the world where everybody is super sensitive on cost.
Yeah, so if you had to sum it up, what are some of the key things that you have to focus on in today's world of B2B, last mile, well, it's helping to grow your company? Rebecca?
So what's the value add that we provide to our direct customers, right? And so how do we enable what we do to enable them to be more sticky with the patients, to provide the service that they want and the expectation? It's when I say it's about the recovery, like how important it is to have a consistent delivery time, and they want the visibility, but not too much visibility, right? Because then you have security to take into consideration. We're tracking drugs. We don't want necessarily people to know at any given point where it is. But our customer wants to know, what is the ETA? When is it going to get there? They want the ETA to be accurate. And if it's not, right, what is the confidence level that they're going to get it later that same day?
Yeah, very good. Doug, you see any others from the automotive side?
It's all about visibility. It's all about visibility. You're empowering the dealerships to make decisions. So if we're on time every day, it's not a big deal. But now we're coming into the winter, right? So we're going to have late deliveries. They prioritize which customers are going to service or what deliveries are going to make it independent repair facilities. They hold the driver. You're giving them information now to make those decisions instead of guessing.
So, Jeff, you have to deal with all of those demands from those thousands of shippers that you have to deal with. How do you deal with that from a 3PL?
Yeah, and what I would add in regards to visibility, it's about being able to react quicker. So when you're making a delivery to a store, as an example, those resources are expensive and they're valuable. So you want accuracy in delivery, and when something changes or something doesn't go as planned, you want to be able to adjust those resources quickly, because time is money, as we all know, and those resources are valuable. But I think what the biggest thing is that business is changing all the time. Even within a specific shipper, things are happening where you may change a supplier or you may change one of your customers. So you want the ability to be able to take your data and model different scenarios, right? So what happens if I add this new supplier? What happens if I have a new customer? How does that affect my costs, my routes, everything? What is the impact of all of that? Especially if you're servicing the whole country through multiple carriers, you want to be able to, get down to all those different scenarios and what the cost and transit impact is.
Very good. What you're really talking about is the agility, right? I came agile, and when I came into the industry in the 90s, a lot of things were still manual, right? But now the complexity, the speed at which we have to do things, and the transparency we're creating. very manual. So what's the role that technology plays to support businesses to get to that agility, to get to that visibility? Maybe, Jeff, I'll start with you. We'll do the other way around.
Well, I think like what we heard in the presentation this morning around AI, it's having good, clean, quality data, right? To be able to have that information at your fingertips, to be able to adjust quickly. I know that a lot of customers before would come to us and say, hey, I want this weekly report, or I want this monthly report. Now, sometimes they want that same report multiple times a day, or they want to be able to go grab that data because things are moving that quickly now.
Doug, from your side?
Yeah, I think it is the time of reporting, like being able to see something in real time, looking at dashboards now instead of reports. I keep telling my team, I don't really want to look at reports. That's looking backwards. I want to see what's happening right now. I can literally look at trucks moving. I see if they're on time, they're behind. I know what dealers could be impacted. I can proactively communicate now from those decisions to my dealers and say, hey, run it behind. Everything's going to be all right. You can track your driver. But it's just being, like you're saying, you have to be agile to do this today.
Yeah, and I know you guys, you talk about communication, but I know you guys also kind of work with business ecosystems, right? So it goes beyond just Ford. How do you deal with that to make sure that some of the companies maybe that you're selling spare parts to get involved in that visibility and that transparency cycle as well?
Yeah, we actually share, our team actually tracks what we call inside of our network and outside of our network. So we have a daily delivery service. We deliver to about 3,000 dealers a day. We use one platform from that. That is a real-time platform. That's what NewViz is. So we actually can track those drivers by the minute, by the second, where they're at. Then we have another system. We use Project 44, which is outside the network, more milestone-based. This has occurred. That has occurred. Not where exactly is that driver, but it's letting us also know that that part's out for delivery. It's going to make it. Now, there's some really cool stuff coming to where now they're actually starting to tie in windows into this visibility now, which we've never had before. So now you can say, I'm going to get a FedEx delivery, and it's going to be there between 10 and 12 now, instead of or 8 to 9:30. Again, you're adding more visibility to people make decisions now. They have more information available to do that.
Yeah, and I think you make a good point. We're talking about platforms nowadays, right? Again, in the 90s, even the 2000s, we were looking at these application stacks. These were individual applications that really weren't meant to even work with each other, let alone with the outside world. Then we went to the cloud. Now we're really looking at platforms that can communicate with that. So from that perspective, Rebecca, from your side, in the pharmaceutical industry, what role does technology play for you guys, and how does that help you basically be more efficient as a company by applying technology?
So I'm a firm believer that technology should be an enabler. It shouldn't be more work for me to utilize the technology to provide the visibility that our customers needs. And so I think about the visibility that we get through NewViz. We know what time the delivery is supposed to happen. We know the estimated time based on real-time transactions. And the worst thing is when a customer tells you the package is late after the package was supposed to be delivered, right? And so I want to be able to tell them proactively, like, hey, this is what's going on. Because at the end of the day, then that clinic or that doctor has to call a patient to reschedule their appointment, right? And that's impactful from a human perspective. So technology, it gives us the visibility. It allows us to be more accurate. And I would agree with these guys. I don't want a report. I want it real time in a dashboard. I can touch it and I can act on it quickly.
And I think, Doug, you referred to it, right? Some of the decisions being made and doing that very quickly. How do you see some of the more recent technologies really helping not just make the decisions, but help you do that a lot faster?
Yeah, that's evolving in this space, right? You're getting into this decision AI perspective, and it's really going to be really, really fascinating for it to learn and to make decisions and make suggestions. That's what's really cool. The question is, how do you learn? And when I talk to my wife about logistics, I'm like, logistics is, honestly, it's illogical sometimes. You think about how you design routes and you're making deliveries, and most of the time people think I'm going to deliver something and I'm just going to go stop for stop like you would a taxi, right? Not like that in logistics. You actually, when you're doing route designs correctly, you're actually starting at the furthest point and working your way back. Right? That's not logical when we think about that. So it's going to help with those things, but it's got to learn these processes and nuances along the way.
And then for you, Jeff, because you guys have your own technology, but now you also have to apply technology for all your customers who might have different demands. How do you deal with that? And does the platform allow you to kind of centralize that for you in a way that it doesn't just help one shipper or your own company, but really helps you deal better with all of your customers?
Yeah, well, I would say there's a lot of great technology companies out there today. So you have to be able to integrate with them quickly and easily. Doug mentioned P44 is a good example. Great visibility, great technology, but how do you use that data, right? And how do you integrate it into your core TMSs and other systems that your customers may want to look at? So I think that's the key, is picking the right technology providers out there that you want to partner with. I think sometimes there's so many coming at you that you have to say, am I redundant? Like, do I have two technology providers really giving me the same information? And that doesn't make sense either. So, but we definitely see that the world we're living in today, technology is moving very fast, which is great because you get a lot of great new innovation things. And I'll give you a good example that we're seeing here recently is around security, right? We all know about fraud in the supply chain, and that's a bigger and bigger deal. And there's a lot of companies out there that are trying to solve that today, which is core, or to be able to have the TMS be part of that. So when that shipment's out for delivery, it's going to be secure.
Right. And so one of the things that we want to talk about as well is collaboration. Because obviously you're looking at how, as a single company, can it be more efficient. But as I mentioned before, you're dealing with multiple suppliers, you're meeting with multiple customers, you're working with 3PLs, you have all the carriers behind that as well. What is that importance for collaboration? And back in the day, collaboration wasn't existing, right? You would send a fax to a carrier, they would go execute, right? Or you would send a message to a 3PL to do something. It was very kind of mandated one-way communication. So what's the importance nowadays of that collaboration for either a distributor or a manufacturer to really be efficient and to really, at the end of the day, help your customer really get their products on time? Rebecca?
Yeah, so I see the entire process as a value chain, and whoever starts at the next touch point is your customer, right? And everybody has to be successful in what they are responsible for in order for the end customer and patient, whomever it is, to have a positive delivery experience. And so I need for the Jeffs of the world and the multiple partners that we use to have a solid integration to the platform, a single platform that we've decided to use, right? And then all the other inputs that go into that, and then the TMS and the WM. And so everybody has to have the same objective, because if your priorities are shifted, we're not going to be successful. So collaboration on a technical level, the people, the processes, so important.
Yeah, and you make a good point, right? Having access to data and the same data. I remember when I was at PepsiCo, we would go to a customer and say, hey, we're doing so well. We have an on-time rate of 97%. And they go, no, you don't. It's 94. We couldn't even agree on the data because we were basing it on different data and often different data points. Or across the organization, we would even have different data definitions and data metrics. So we couldn't even see it within our own organization. So from a collaboration perspective, as an automotive manufacturer, how important is it working with all of these different companies and working with all the dealerships and all the other customers that you have to deal with as well, that you're providing parts to, et cetera?
Well, I think you have to take the time up front to design what you want, right? And find the part that matches up with you. I think people get fixated by magic quadrants, right? But is that magic quadrant, that person that's in that upper right-hand corner, are they the right partner for you? Not only from a functionality perspective, technology perspective, but also just collaborating and co-collaborating. What are they like? And I think it's overlooked a lot, and it's extremely important that you have that. When we launched our final mile solution, my team had never done this before. We actually listed out all the things we wanted to do, and then we prioritized that. Now, who matches up best with that? Now, the vendors see what I'm actually building or what I'm trying to get to now. They see that collaboration, and they say, hey, maybe we can bring some of this in now, maybe we can bring it in later, but you're collaborating together and saying, this is where I'm trying to take this product.
Right. So from a 3PL perspective, how do you deal with that with all of these companies that have their different processes, but also, Jeff, from the carrier side? Because you have to deal with a growing network of carriers that you use as well. How do you kind of help centralize that on the platform?
Yeah, I would say the more you can partner and be collaborative in that relationship, the better it's going to be. Today in supply chain, most activities are driven by the procurement team for most businesses today. And I understand that and I appreciate that. But the challenge is when a sourcing event is led by procurement and you don't have access to the business people to really understand the goals and objectives that the business is trying to get after. We understand that cost is always going to be critical and important, but it's more than just a pricing event. It's about how do we work together to give more creative ideas and things that add more value and even additional cost savings than what may just be requested in that RFP that is out there.
Yeah, and it's the value. I mean, at the end of the day, it's value, right? And that's what you have to look at. Yeah, cost is a factor of that, but co-collaboration is a factor of that too, right? So you have to put for yourself, you have to determine where you are in your journey, what you're going to do, but it's the value at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think part of value, obviously, of the quantifiable value, right, in operations internally. But I think the other part is how well are you able to serve your customers, and does that help you, for example, grow revenue? So that really comes to the customer experience. So how do you think, one, the customer expectations have changed, and then how do you handle that differently, and how does the technology part create value towards helping to meet that customer expectation, really create that what I would call the newer customer experience of today?
I mean, I think their expectations are far more demanding than they used to be. And part of that is because they also have access to far more visibility than they used to have, right? And so that it goes both ways. Like what sometimes when you know more, you have to do more. You have to act on it, right? And so as they want it, we have to grow with that, right? And so we give them access to data and visibility, but the piece is like it's acting on it, right? And so I think that's how we use technology to provide that to them, and that we are proactively saying like, hey, we can do this for you, and this is how it helps your business. And if we can take it on, then you can deal with the patients and work with them because that's your wheelhouse. We'll handle the logistics and the delivery of it. And then a better patient experience, a better customer experience. I never want to go to a customer meeting or a customer RFP and say that transportation or delivery is the reason why the business is at stake, right? And so like getting a delivery on time with a good experience is basic requirement.
Yeah, very good. Very, very true as well. So Doug, on your side, do you see that customer expectations have changed for you? And then secondly, have the strategies, process, and technologies you put in place really created that new customer experience? Has that provided value?
Yeah, it has changed, and it's changing more dramatically every day. I'm sitting here thinking when we first launched the product and we rolled out, it was hey, it'd be great if it could do this. And then it was like, well, okay, we can do that, not a problem. Okay, well, it'd be great if it could do this then. Okay, we can do that. And now it's getting to be, it'd be great if it can do this, and this. And I go, okay, now we're adding some complexity to this. So the value is there. They're seeing it. From my perspective, as you digitize this experience, it enables other things to happen. Think about how you can start taking data from a delivery and integrating into accounting systems or inventory management systems, right? You're actually taking this to a whole nother level that you could not do when you were doing things manually. So the innovation is there, but the customers are starting to ask for more. They're understanding more, and it's becoming more and more complex.
Yeah, and then Jeff, you as a 3PL, you have these guys that have increasing expectations. You are working with the carriers that then face the end customer, and probably carriers now as well are trying to work with you guys differently in a more efficient way. So tell us about how you achieve that and how you, from your side, provide that customer experience.
Well, what I would equate it to is everything that we're experiencing as consumers, the visibility, the real-time data updates, everything we can get on our phone, that is in the business world too. Not with every company, because what we experience is that some companies are very technological advanced, meaning when you go to integrate with them or pass data back and forth, they're very ready and available to do that. However, there's still a lot of companies that still, their platforms are either behind or maybe they're in a transitionary phase. So as a 3PL, you have to balance both. Those companies that want to be cutting edge on the visibility and technology versus those that can only take and consume so much data. But as a 3PL and with companies like NuViz, we're able to meet both needs there. We're able to provide that flexibility depending on what the customer needs are.
Yeah, and sometimes the carriers are a little behind, right, from a technology ability or what they have available or the resources they can put to it. How do you deal with that, Doug, to make sure that you don't leave the carriers behind, but you truly are that shipper of choice or the 3PL of choice to make it easier for carriers?
I said, I'm gonna have the technology. You want to work with me, then I'm gonna own it, right? And it's made things a lot easier for us to standardize the platform across the world, the network. I know what data quality I'm gonna get now. I don't have to try to stitch data together anymore. So we just said we're gonna do it ourselves, and it gives us much more flexibility.
Yeah, and Rebecca, is it true that the platform now can become the platform that not just you as a shipper use, but also the carrier? So now you're connected in kind of a unified way.
Absolutely, right. So a single source of truth is what we're looking for. And so it's a standard integration. And this is, here you go. Here's the data contract, integrate, right? And send us the data. It's consistent. We know what we're getting. The data analysis is so much easier after that. And then now we're integrated upstream right into customer ordering platforms, so they too have that visibility. So absolutely.
So I think what we can take away, definitely from my perspective, is the importance of the platform to bring all the different players on it, be able to look at the whole network, right? And especially also network of carriers, and then the ability to collaborate. Now, maybe as we have 2 minutes left, I'm going to ask you kind of one piece of key advice or maybe key takeaway that you would give to the audience on this particular space. Rebecca, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so I would say understand your stakeholders, their priorities, and when you're in the process to select whomever it is that you're going to be, like do the time to do your business requirements, your customer requirements, and then the design, right? And so getting aligned on the design and what your objective is, I think it's well worth the time up front because it'll pay off at the end.
Very good. Doug?
For me, it's just the requirements. Making sure you capture the requirements correctly, and then find an partner that matches up with that.
It's very clear. Jeff?
I agree. I'll say it a little bit differently. Begin with the end in mind. So when you start, it may seem very daunting and like a very complicated challenge to solve, but if you know the vision or where you think you want to go, you can get there, piece by piece.
Yeah, very good. So I want to our incredible panelists and industry experts, so thank you.